Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. We're back. I'm going to get rid of my glasses. Oh, they went blank. Right, we're back. It is the StatrCast. This is the weird period of Christmas between Christmas and New Year's Day. So you might notice that there's no Jimmy with us today because he's busy getting the app ready to launch. So we've been approved on Google. The app is actually sitting there on Google ready for us to push the button and send it out, and we're just waiting on Apple to come back to us. So everybody's going to be playing Statter very fucking soon, which is going to be class. So I've got Dean with me today, and I've got Dermot with me today. We've got the resident Man United fan, we've got the resident Leeds fan, and we've got the resident Fulham fan. So I think three teams that are looking up in the last couple of weeks. So we're going to be really positive today, which is class. And then we're going to look at some of the fixtures for the next game week. So yeah, where do we want to start? We have Fulham 3 wins on the bounce with no AFCON players. We have Leeds unbeaten in 5 with Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the form of his life. And we've got Manchester United with a new formation, playing youth players, and every time Rúben Amorim does a press conference, it just brings me so much more joy because he's just a bastard, and I love it. He's like, I'll be proven right, lads. Yeah, Dermot, talk to me, because I think let's start with Leeds, because Dermot's very happy, and we don't get him here very often, so let him talk Leeds.
Sure. You don't get me here very often, and it's even more rare you get me here happy to talk about Leeds, John. Yeah, it's been an uncharacteristically pleasant Christmas period. Since the change of formation to the back five and the two up top at halftime against City, they were very unlucky to lose against City that day. Last minute Foden goal after pulling 2 goals back. They have been unbeaten in the last 5, as you said. That includes a win against Chelsea, draws against Liverpool, Bournemouth, Sunderland, and Brentford. Oh no, a win against Brentford. Sorry, should I say?
No draw. So draw against Brentford.
1-1 against Brentford. In any case, they're unbeaten in the last 5. They've 10 points in the last 5, which is, as you know, John, as a potential relegation struggler that Fulham also were a couple of years ago, it goes a long way if you can pick up points this time of year, especially against teams.
A couple of years ago, try about 3 weeks ago, mate. We were staring at the barrel as well 3 weeks ago. It's like, oh, here we go. But like, what's this? This little run of form has got you 7 points clear of the relegation zone. It's starting to look like that bottom 3 is kind of solidified. The only team I see slipping into that now is Bournemouth in terms of the teams in that impact above. I think the 3 at the bottom are set in stone, bar Bournemouth's form continuing in the piss poor vein that's in. Like Bournemouth with 3 wins in the last 8 games, or 3 draws in the last 8 games, and the rest of their losses. They've fallen off a cliff, and I don't know what. Like, you might be able to talk to me a bit more about this, Dermot. What the fuck is happening with Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Is this just a case of he's fit? Is it a case of this is a system that suits? Like, what's happening?
It's a couple of things, John. So yeah, first of all, he's fit. Like, I was just having a conversation here watching Leeds and Sunderland yesterday with the man who did not know Calvert-Lewin was picked up on a free by Leeds this summer, saying things like, isn't it insane that they let him go to Leeds? Isn't it insane that Everton let him go in the first place? So, I mean, getting him for a free, we were all pretty buoyant when it happened. We're thinking, all right, he's probably out of form. He's probably unfit. He might get us 5 or 6 goals. It could be the difference between staying up and going down. As it happens, he scored in the last 7. He's got his eyes on Vardy's record of 11 in a row. We head to Anfield on, I think it's Thursday, so Lord knows there's a goal or 2 to be had there. But the main difference is Farke is starting to play the way he kind of said he was going to play when we made all these signings in the summer. You know, everyone knows Leeds figured out that or at least the Leeds analysts came to the conclusion that the best way to try and survive is to get big lads, be effective from set pieces, try and make yourself difficult to beat rather than trying to come up and do what Leeds did a few years ago, which was never going to happen. They were never going to be that Bielsa team that was, you know, swashbuckling, taking on all the big lads and winning away to Man City. But what they have done is, with this back 5 system that they switched to against City, is they've become pretty solid at the back. Now, not completely solid. There's still goals being leaked. But, I mean, most of the team now is over 6 foot. The 2 boys up front are 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", more or less. They each weigh pushing 12, 13 stone, you know. It's a really good system for a man like Calvert-Lewin because all he has to do is win flick-ons, which I would argue he is probably the best forward at the moment in the Premier League, because obviously Haaland isn't a big flick-on merchant because he's the man you want running into the space. But between Okafor up front with Calvert-Lewin, they're permanently dangerous. Usually they have two big lads in the middle of midfield as well as one of, Tanaka or Aronson, who are that creative hub playing off in, left, right, and centre off the front two. And big lads at the back, fast wing backs, I should say. Now, Joe Rodon went down yesterday. That's going to be a big loss. That was, I believe, his 101st start in a row for Leeds. The first man since Norman Hunter way back who's done that for Leeds. So it's a shame he's gone down.
In fairness.
Pretty impressive. Norman Hunter's a legend amongst legends at Leeds. But I wouldn't say optimistic, but I'm very calm about Leeds' prospects at the moment. The bottom three look not great. I'm still an Areola believer. I find it very difficult to go against him. I think you're right that those bottom three are somewhat adrift now, but I'm not confident enough to say Leeds are out of the waters, because I would still fancy Forest and Bournemouth to be there, pushing up rather than pushing down as the months go by. But for Leeds, it's really pleasant to watch. Like, they were very unlucky not to get a win against Sunderland yesterday on the basis of play. We had more possession. We had, I think, almost triple the number of touches in their box. But having said that, Sunderland also hit the bar.
Like third most goals from set pieces this season is Leeds. I think it's only Man
so
United.
Going into yesterday's game, it was second most goals, just behind Man United. Now, 3 of those came against Palace, so it's a little bit of a distorted fact. It's a little bit misleading. But I mean, the fact remains that the plan was in the summer, we've got big guys, they're going to defend well, we're going to be a threat from set pieces. And then Farke kind of didn't go for that until his job was on the line. And he was told after the Man City game, if he didn't pick up points against Liverpool or Chelsea, that it was over, he was gone. He had the stones to switch to the back five, and as you said, we're unbeaten since. So it's a case of he was a little late to get to his guns, but now he's sticking to them, and it's going really well. It's very pleasant to watch Leeds play right now.
I was watching him in the early part of the season, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a long slog of a season," because it seemed like very backs against the wall style defending, like Goodmanson and Stats, just make as many goddamn tackles as you possibly can, and hope that we can hit you on a break, or hope we can pick you off from a set piece, and just try hanging games. But and you can see this from the teams that just try to hang in games, and you can see this in teams that go 1-0 up and when they try to sit back in for too long. When you give up that much possession, when you give up that many chances, especially in the Premier League, where one mistake, like look at Wolves in the last couple of games, like they've been improving, but most of the goals have been errors of their own making. And when you make a team sit so far deep and without the quality in the back, like a Chelsea or an Arsenal especially this season, they can just park the bus at the edge of the box and go, "You shall not pass," fine, and you won't pass. But at Leeds, the quality is different, so a mistake then can kill you. I've really liked this. What I've liked about this changed formation is people will say a 3-5-2. And maybe it's the Man United thing, that because of the press and all this bullshit talk about system, people say a 3 at the back is so defensive-minded. But the reality is it's actually got an extra centre forward on the pitch for Leeds, and it's made them infinitely more dangerous as a result.
And what the 3 centre-backs does, John, and this isn't just for Leeds, this is for every team, is it gives you a better opportunity to actually build from the back. Now, Leeds are playing a lot of long balls. They're looking for a lot of flick-ons from Calvert-Lewin, as we mentioned. Yep. But the extra man at the back is actually fundamental, really. If you're a weaker team trying to build out sometimes, you need that. The fact is you need that extra man. No one's going to sit here and say Leeds have the best quality team in the league. I would argue Sunderland bought better in the summer. And I think Sunderland have been a bit fortunate, not with their performances, but that they brought in so many new faces that somehow just clicked. And all credit to them, they're unbelievable. They're one of 2 unbeaten teams at home this season. You can't get anything away from Sunderland. But what I like about this change of formation particularly is that it's given Leeds an identity. And I think when you're coming up and you're one of the weaker teams, the fixture list is abysmal throughout the whole year. I mean, there are 14 strong teams in the Premier League now who I don't want to see Leeds playing against at the weekend. And with this new identity, which is also a kind of an old Leeds identity, Leeds were always a strong, get stuck into, the kind of team. So I'm really happy with it. I mean, if you didn't see the goal yesterday that Leeds scored right after the break, every player touched the ball. 27 seconds after the move started, it was in the net. I mean, for me, it's the goal of the season. And I'm not at all biased, as you know. But,
not at all.
Yeah,
I think there's one or two that lead it just about for me, especially Harry Wilson's one there about 2 weeks ago. That double touch at the edge of the box, that was just seduction. But like,
well, it's just good to hear people nominating very unbiased goals of the season here. Isn't
I
it?
know, yeah. Wait for Dean. He'll be like, I'm out to go there and go 2 weeks ago.
But do you think with Calvert-Lewin, do you think that if he keeps up the form that he's playing for the rest of the season, he can find himself maybe on the bench for in the World Cup with England?
No.
Not starting, obviously, but no, he's just
Tuchel,
like he's just.
I've never heard Tuchel say a word about Calvert-Lewin. And I don't.
It's actually a fucking brilliant question to ask, because that reform should be putting you in an England conversation. It should be.
I mean,
similarly, if you're talking
like a similar form last year, or not last year, but like a couple of years ago for the Euros, and and obviously they're Aston performing a lot better than Leeds are at the moment. But I mean, he's only 28. He's 28 years old. You would think that he'd kind of be like like in the prime of his career at the moment. And if he does keep up the because like Ollie Watkins is having a pretty poor season. Now he scored the other night.
2 goals again the other day, so he back.
Did, but he's not doing. He hasn't been doing much. Like they've been really dependent on Morgan Rodgers.
Yeah.
But if Watkins doesn't get back into the squad, well, I suppose Watkins was probably there ahead of Rashford as well in the last.
No, I think there's a great conversation around that. Especially, I think we'll need to look at this conversation in depth in around March once we know like the lay of the land with the Ireland team as well, and look at this kind of squads we expect to be going. But I think there's Dominic Calvert-Lewin kind of falls into the Danny Welbeck kind of category of striker. Joe, when he scores 5 and 6 in 7-8 games, but he'll be streaky because he'll miss maybe 5 or 6 games after this run because he'll pull up with some niggly injury that'll put him back. And I think this will be a case of if you're an international manager and you're bringing a player and going, this boy needs to be able to play every 3 days for a month.
Well, the other thing that Calvert-Lewin's getting now, which he hasn't gotten a long time, is he's got playing time, and it's a big difference to be a man who you've given a chance to find your form, and then you find your form and you can maintain it. Whereas there is no scenario where Harry Kane is not England's number 9 at the World Cup. You'd be thinking Calvert-Lewin could be used as a weapon. Maybe, they're a man down and they're losing in a knockout match and you need to throw someone on that you can lump a ball into. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I'd be very surprised still just because I've never heard Tuchel say anything about him. I think Tuchel has a very, very, very strong idea about who his entire squad is going to be.
Yeah.
And again, with the whole Harry Kane factor, I don't think he's too concerned. But then again, I mean, anything can happen. Kane can get injured. Anything.
Yeah, I'd be imagining the English strikers are going to be Kane, Watkins, your wide play, and then you're going to have the versatile wingers. So I reckon someone like a Rashford will probably get into the squad because it'll be a case of if something happens to column A or column B, he can move into a number 9 role. Foden can play in a number 9 role, but they can also play out wide. Whereas Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't have that.
He's very one-dimensional.
Yeah, and I think that's why Ollie Watkins will take that spot ahead of him, and then you'll have the players like your Foden and your Rashford who can do a job in there if required. But Dean, that's a brilliant fucking assessment, and I think it's one of those ones that if he keeps this vein of form going into the next international break, you're going to have pockets of the media going, surely the form English striker in the Premier League should be getting a look in here. Same conversation we were having about Welbeck a month ago, I think.
Yeah, but doesn't that kind of screams to me that in a month's time we'll have forgotten about Calvert-Lewin a bit? He's in a rich vein of form, but I mean, I'm very optimistic about Leeds' hopes now for the season, but I don't see this becoming 20 goals.
If he gets 15 for the season, you're buzzing, and he's well on track. I think he's actually on track to do 12 to 15 at this point.
We wanted 10. All we wanted was 10 amongst my friends who were Leeds fans. We were saying if you pick up someone for free and they get you 10 goals in the Premier League, that is a miracle.
Yeah.
So fair play to him. He's on the.
And I said at the start of the season when we were doing our predictions, I said Leeds were the one of the promoted teams I reckon would actually get out of trouble. I didn't see Sunderland doing what Sunderland did. And Dermot, you mentioned it with the Sunderland signings. I think the biggest factor there was Granit Xhaka. I think that's been the cement and the stones up there. I think Leeds are missing, if they can get the right maybe 2 players in January, someone in the centre midfield, I think, and someone on either wing, because I don't.
We need a winger. We need a winger, and we need.
You have bodies on the wings, but you don't have the quality.
What we need now is cover. We need cover at our fullbacks, quality cover at the fullbacks, because we don't want to have a situation like what you're seeing with Palace right now, which is Daniel Munoz goes down, and now Palace are all of a sudden. I think Nathaniel Klein is playing right wing back for Palace, which sounds like a bad joke. To be honest, he's had his moment. Klein was a good player at one point, but I would not want him to be my starting right wing back for the coming weeks.
No.
And it's the same problem we have. We need a bit of cover out wide. We need better wingers so that if we do have to change formation, like yesterday, we flipped to a 4-3-3 yesterday when Rodon went off. Now Ampadu was behaving a bit more like an advanced centre back than a defensive midfielder, and you could still see the back five defensively in the second half. But we did have to move a bit yesterday. We did have to change the formation, and it did go well. But I often worry that we're still lacking a bit of that quality out wide, both defensively and attacking, at least in terms of depth. And come April, you don't know what kind of state some of these guys' legs could be in.
So
still questions to be asked for Leeds,
But you mentioned something there about the system, and I think that's a nice transition over to another team who recently have been manoeuvring their system. But before we move off of Leeds, do you want to just say the sentence that you're staying up? Do you ready? Are you going to
I did them at the start of the season. Depending on if you asked me at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, it was they were going to finish 18th or they were going to finish 17th. I still think we're better than the 3 teams in the relegation zone, but I don't think we're better than Forest. I don't think we have a better manager than Forest or Bournemouth.
And but Semenyo's gone as well in a couple of weeks from Bournemouth. So I mean, couple of days by all accounts. Yeah,
by all accounts, his representatives are in Manchester to finalise the deal to City, and if they don't come to an agreement today, then Man United and Spurs, by all accounts, have next dibs on him.
I think he's bound for City. But yeah, I think once he goes, I think that'll be just Bournemouth and almost free fall. I think that he's going to have a big loss for them, and I think that would bode well for Leeds if Leeds can, like we're saying, keep up reasonable form. Where they're getting like maybe 6 points in like every 4 or 5 games. I think that they'll stay up, but Bournemouth will be in big.
I think, like as you said, 7 points clear starting the new year is a great position to be in. So I'm going to put my nuts on the table and say Leeds are staying up, Wolves and Burnley are done, and then it's a decision between West Ham, Forest, and Bournemouth as to who's the other team going out. But Dermot, you mentioned system change, which is a nice time to transition to the ballsiest manager I think in the Premier League right now, Rúben Amorim. Like the more I see him speak, and the more I see these Muppet fans, they're the ones who've been saying, we don't want player power in our club. Well, why is Kobe Mainoo not playing? Which side of the fucking fence do you want to be on here? His press conferences for the last 2 weeks have filled me with so much joy that there's actually a manager of a team at that high level of the table who isn't willing to bend over for the players the same way Maresca seems to do at Chelsea, the same way Frank seems to be doing at Spurs. He's taken a beast of a club by the horns and gone, I'm doing it my way, and I don't give a shit what you say. And you're starting, I think, to see the fruition of it now. So Dean, talk to me about the last couple of weeks at Manchester United.
Yeah, obviously, kind of like Mbeumo and Ahmed, they've kind of been almost a star of the show, like over the past, like since the start of the season on that right wing, and we're have to lose them to AFCON. Would also like to point out though that Ahmed got a goal yesterday and got man of the match against Mbeumo's Cameroon, and also Mbeumo on Wednesday got an assist and also got man of the match in that game for Cameroon. So it's nice to see them still keeping up their form at AFCON. Which is kind of sad for us as well, because if they keep up the form and keep winning games, the longer they're gone. But, you'd rather see them succeed than not succeed. But that brings us then to, the Newcastle game. Played really good in the second half. There's some actual genuinely good football being played by the team. Dorgu got a really, really good goal. And I've been critical of him this season. He hasn't been, kind of at the standard that we would just like him to be at the club long term, but credit where credit's due. He didn't get man of the match. Aiden Heaven got man of the match, but he definitely could
have got
man of the match.
For me, I was watching that game rightly so.
I agree, but if Dorgu got man of the match, I wouldn't have had any complaints either. But Heaven was brilliant. Dorgu was really good. Sesko had a couple of chances. Again, he's just missing that extra bit of flair to be able to actually stick the ball into the back of the net. I see him hitting a lot of shots, wide over the bar. He had a really good chance. Ugarte wasn't much of a pass. It was more of a tackle that gave him a true ball on goal, and he hit the crossbar. He just needs to be doing better in those kind of positions, I think. But he's still young. Hopefully, he can develop a bit more over the rest of the season, and by next season, we'll have like a really good goal scorer on our hands because he came off for Xerxes, and Xerxes just. I mean, we're really
Xerxes,
like.
I will tell
He's
you this:
not
Xerxes
it.
doesn't start for Fulham.
He's not it.
He won. Yeah, apparently Rome are meant to be putting in a bid for him,
Off you
and
go. Like if
Yeah.
I heard Xerxes to Man United now to Fulham next week, I'd be like, oh please God no.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and that's not. It's not like I just don't think he's a Premier League.
He just doesn't have. He's not at the quality that is required of the Premier League. Like I mean, he's feck all goals for United over the past couple of seasons, and probably needs to go. But it's saying that as well. Is generally the right time to get rid of him. You know, even if if Sesko gets a bit tired and his legs are going, would you like to have like Xerxes just to bring on some fresh legs? Because if we do get rid of him in January, I suppose if Cunha starts on the left, you could probably put him up front and I don't know, bring on a Mason Mount. Even though I think Mason Mount should be starting every game for United. But there's we actually always for once now we actually have a lot of depth in our the front line, so it's kind of a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
I
think Man United have two glaring issues in their squad. It's that it's the Casemiro error in the centre midfield. I think it's that left wing back / left back slot. And if you were to look at a third position, it's a senior striker. Just someone that can rotate in and out. Maybe that kind of Ivan Toney-esque, on the older side, but still not.
I think that's
not Cavani, not a retirement home striker.
Yeah,
a Calvert-Lewin, you might say.
A Calvert-Lewin, you might say. Yeah, that type of profile.
Yeah, but just someone who's like 25 or 26 years old has been around the block, because we do have a pretty young squad. So I would like to see someone just a bit more mature.
Touched on a point I wanted to talk about there, because I've seen a lot of content online about this. The Man United Academy is falling. The Rúben Amorim does not want to play young players. Anybody saw the Newcastle game? Euros 19, Aiden Heaven is 18, Ahmed's 23, Sesko's 22.
Here's
Shea Lacey, Frederickson, the two Fletchers, Lamins. Like, it's a very young fucking squad. So
here's the doubt about the United Academy. Dean, do you think they're, and I don't know at what point this will be happening, maybe this is very young, maybe this is the guys bringing in youngsters, maybe this is the actual academy coaches. A couple of prominent Man United Academy graduates in recent years have been misprofiled.
Yes.
First and foremost, Scott McTominay this should be studied as a case in misprofiling a player and what can happen when you get properly profiled. I mean, he won Player of the Year last year in Serie A. We all know. We all saw him he's scoring goals left and right, setting up goals. He scored that bikie for Scotland. And now you're seeing the same thing with Mainu, who's the next kind of prominent academy graduate who we were kind of promised was this. Is he a deep line midfielder? Is he an all-action midfielder? He's neither of those things. He's an advanced midfielder who still is nowhere near as refined as McTominay was, even when McTominay was being played out of position. I mean, McTominay was being played at centre-back.
The thing with McTominay was a fascinating case, right? Because in the youth levels, he was actually centre forward, and then his height shot up so dramatically that I think he's one of those kind of John O'Shea-esque players. He wasn't played at centre back initially for Man United. He played at centre back in the back three for Scotland because it was need must, and he excelled in that position. Mourinho didn't really promote youth players, but he promoted McTominay, and you heard the Mourinho comment from 3 weeks ago. It's like, what's in your bag? Scott's jersey. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's the least he deserved to give me because I picked him ahead of Paul Pogba. I think that was just a case of he was good, he was big, he was strong, and looking at his physical attributes more so than his balling attributes. And I think the bigger problem with his misalignment in terms of position was actually the axis with Fred. That between them, they completed one good midfielder because the two of them covered each other's weaknesses very well. But I think he got murdered by the relationship on the pitch with Fred in the sense that he had to almost suffer his game for the betterment of the team.
That ties
into
where do you
play Mainu then if you think he's being misprofiled?
I don't play him. I don't play him. He's a sub for that Cunha and Bermo kind of behind the front man. the 10s, but I don't like to call him a 10 either. He's kind of like an 8.5. But I don't know. I think he's good. I don't think he's as good as many believed he was, or at least as many hoped he would be by now. But I think this is kind of the fundamental problem with United now, is that you have one aging, if not aged, midfielder who can hold things up defensively in Casemiro, and then you've got 4 10s in Fernandes, Mainu, and the 2 new lads from the summer. Obviously now Fernandes is a bit different. He's able to dominate the ball and control a game. But no one, like, if I'm a midfielder running with the ball, I have no fear running into Fernandes or Mainu in the middle of midfield. Those lads are not stopping anyone, you know.
Yeah.
And this
They
is
need
what I think a lot of the couch fans seem to forget at times, because it's like, I want Mount in the team, I want Cunha in the team, I want Mbeumo in the team, I want Fernandes in the team, I want Mainu in the team. So,
Where's the balance?
Well, who gets him the ball?
Yeah.
That too, yeah.
Who goes and wins that ball back? It's like, that's wonderful to see if you're going to be playing a 6-a-side game where you're going to have the ball most of the time. But the reality is, and like the Mainu thing is a fascinating one, because I think the bigger issue there is mentality, its application. Because I've heard some fans going, well, he needs to be playing. It's like, no manager worth his salt is keeping a player of that quality on the bench and giving him 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, if he's applying himself in training. But his 2 best buddies in Højlund and Garnacho were moved on this summer, so maybe there's, and like Man United have had awful dressing room for the last 5 years with Rashford, Sancho, Lingard, Pogba, dickheads in the dressing room. Has he picked up bad habits from these bellends that have been in the dressing room, and thinks now that all these column inches have been written about him that he is it, and at 20 doesn't think he needs to put in the same work? That it's like Dalot plays because he's a good lad. Dalot plays because he ticks all the boxes that any manager will want a player to take off the pitch. That's why Dalot plays. Is Mainu taking those boxes?
It's interesting you mentioned Højlund, because that's another man who's found his form as soon as he got out of Old Trafford. He just scored his 6th and 7th goals of the season in Serie A last night or the night before. And that Napoli team are looking very strong again, with De Bruyne himself, McTominay, and the lads with their
that line of players leaving Man United to get better is horseshit, because Jadon Sancho has gone to Villa and done nothing. Onana's gone to Trabzonspor and done nothing, but people like to highlight the ones that have left and done well. Like, what's Rashford done in Barcelona?
Rashford was killing it in the first quarter of the season at Barca. He's slowed down a bit now, but that's because Rafinha's back, and there's no world where Rashford can even touch Rafinha. But they're big fans of Rashford up in Barcelona at the moment.
Yeah. But this is the thing. Like, you highlight every time it's like Højlund scores a goal. It's oh, look, another one has left and gone well, rather than, oh yeah, but did you see the game that Onana made 3 howlers and conceded 3 in the Trabzonspor game 2 weeks ago? You see Jadon Sancho has played a whole total of like 25 minutes all season.
Sancho's a very strange...
Just pin out the 2 or 3 that have gone on and done well.
So I was thinking about this store earlier on. I was watching the extended highlights of the United game, and it might be a controversial opinion, but a player who I really, really like for Newcastle is Lewis Hall. I think he's such a fucking quality defender.
I thought you were about to say Fabian Schär again.
No, but he's such a quality defender for he plays left back, quality defender, gets forward a lot. For about 15-20 minutes there, he looked like the only Newcastle player who was actually in for any chance of scoring. No, he can't play left back at United system, because we don't play left back, we have 3 at the back. But what would be your thoughts if we threw 80 million at fucking Newcastle and had him as left wing back? Because he does.
That's a scandalous amount of money. I think
he's
half that price for him, but I get what you're saying.
Maybe 60 mil, but I think he's better than 40 mil, to be honest. I think he's a young player. He's going to be playing left back. I think he's going to be starting for England at left back in the World Cup, and that's just going to drive up his price in the summer. But honestly, I'd love to see United try him at left wing back, because he gets up attacking anyway, so he wouldn't be it wouldn't be an unusual position for him to play in. But if we don't get Semenyo, I think that he would be a good option. But I don't.
Why would you get Semenyo? First of all, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he has any interest in going to United. And second of all, I mean, why would they be looking at Semenyo, having just spent money in the summer?
I'm only saying that based on the fact that apparently United have been rumoured along with City, Liverpool and Spurs to be getting them. So I'm just bringing it up from that kind of point of view. But I agree that we don't actually have a spot in the team for Semenyo. I don't think that he's a signing that we do need to have. But just if there was a small chance that we do get him and we don't, like we do need someone on the left who can play that same role that Emma's playing on the right, where he can get back and defend, but it's also like getting really into the edge of the box, even in around the box. And just from what I see with Lewis Hall, like he is such an attacking player, and I think that he could be able
But he
to
also
maybe fill
seems
that.
like a proper there's never any stories. There's never any, even when Newcastle seem to be losing the rag and Joe Linton and Tonali are getting booked and Anthony Gordon, he just seems to kind of chunder along and do his thing. And I think that's what Amorim is trying to bring into the dressing room, because what I found fascinating the last couple of weeks, especially with Amorim, is he did that press conference where he took a proper pot shot at the academy, and then Harry Amas and Cheeto put up these bullshit social media posts. It's like, and fans were like, "Oh, good on you, lads!" It's like you're the ones talking about no player power in the dressing room, but then you're highlighting the children who think it's okay to clap back at the manager publicly rather than having a conversation with him. So those two boys, as far as I'm concerned, you should sell them because they're two little dickheads. And he proved it then in his next press conference. He was like, "Look at the profile of players we're playing, and then the system thing." And people have got so like hyper focused on this 3-4-3 system. And I sent the thing into our group a couple weeks ago where we looked at the systems, and it's not actually been a 3-4-3 for about 6 weeks. Every match there's been subtle nuances, subtle changes. That against West Ham was the only one where it didn't make sense. But in every other game, it was like a 3-4-3. Then it was a 4-3-3. Then it was a 4-2-4. Then it was a 3-5.
But these formations are all very fluid in different phases of the game. Like it's what you're saying. It's interesting. Like Lewis Hall's a good example. I think I like him as a player. Nothing against him. What you said is definitely true, Dean. He's well able to get forward. And he's a solid defender. If I were shopping for Man United, I would be looking primarily for a physical left wing back, because I want someone who can dominate that flank for the full 90 minutes, first of all, not someone who has to come off after 65 or 70 minutes. But secondly, someone who can bring that intensity defensively in the top half of the pitch. Now, you mentioned Semenyo, which I don't think fits, because Semenyo is just a complete liability defensively. But what Semenyo is an incredible presser within the system that Bournemouth are running. Yeah, Anthony Robinson would be a good shout, actually. So that little bit bigger, that little bit stronger, that little bit more secure. But going back to the formations, they're very fluid whether you have the ball, whether they don't have the ball, depending on who has the ball and where on the pitch. So I wouldn't get too caught up. And I know lots of people get caught up on the numbers of the formation of 3-4-3, 4-3-3, whatever else. But what United need to do, I think, more so is get the profile right of player on that wing. Because right now they do not have the profile of player right, or they don't have the correct profile of player on the right wing. Between Dallo and Ahmad, you've got some qualities that one of them has, some qualities that the other one has. If you could somehow meet in the middle there, maybe the person isn't as skillful and tricky going forward as Ahmad, but maybe they're a little bit more reliable defensively than Dallo, maybe a little bit bigger and stronger. Anthony Robinson's a great shout, John. I can't believe you put that out there, because Fulham would be in serious trouble if they lost him.
Well, actually, yeah, and this is the thing, and we will get to Fulham in a minute, but like in terms of his crossing ability, like put his crosses, like remember how many goals Mitrovic scored in that team where he had two fullbacks like a Robinson. Like Robinson's crossing numbers last year were top 5 in the Premier League. He had as many assists as Bukayo Saka, despite being a left back. I know Bukayo Saka was injured, but England's star boy attacking player versus Fulham's left back having the same assists in a team that's not like putting his quality of crosses and his volume of crosses. I think only Pedro Porro in an individual game this season has put in more crosses in a one-off game than Robinson has this season. And Robinson's only been fit for the last 3 or 4 games, which has also coincided with Fulham winning 3 on the bounce since he's been back in the team. So it's almost like his defensive numbers last season: top 5 for interceptions, top 5 for tackles, top 5 for aerial duels. Statistically speaking, the only fullback in the league who was better than him last year is now playing for Real Madrid.
Who's that?
Trent.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I thought he would have been a perfect, and I said this in the summer to you, Dean, I thought he would have been the problem is he plays for Fulham, the problem is he's American, and the problem is he's not a bougie enough name for, like Kirkes was the talk of the town in the summer, and that's why Liverpool went and bought him, and look how well that's working out.
They need to try and find someone along the lines of Alphonso Davies. Now they're not getting Alphonso Davies. Also, he's just coming back from an ACL. He's way out of their league for several. He's out of touch for several, or out of reach for several reasons, I should say. But that kind of profile of put the physical attributes and the defensive attributes before the need for them to be a killer in the final third. And then if you can get the addition of them being able to defend high up the pitch with the press, I think that would fit like a glove at United.
What I loved about the Man United Newcastle game then as well was everybody was screaming, "Oh my God, they've played a 4-3-3, oh my God." And watch it. It was a 4-3-3, but the fullback fucking alternated. So you still had a back three with Martinez, Euro in heaven, or Martinez, Shaw heaven, whichever dynamic it was. And essentially, when Dallo fucked off up the wing, Dorgu stayed. Dorgu fucked off the wing.
Dorgu's a decent athlete to have out there. I'd be lying if I've seen him play every game this season. But from what I've seen of him, he still seems a bit green, a little bit raw.
He is green,
which is also fine. But if you're relying on him to be the protection on the left-hand side, when then we already know there are doubts about the middle of midfield, it just becomes a bit too much. They're just a bit too much of a liability potentially there defensively. I'm not sure.
I just thought it was fascinating when everybody was screaming about the 4-3-3, and it was like, okay, tell me who that back four was, because anybody will tell you the back four, and then when you actually look at the heat map of what the back four actually was, they'll be wrong.
Yeah.
Because it was like,
great goal by
was
Dorgu
right
too.
back, Shaw was left back, and the two boys were centre back. It's like, well, Shaw played more of a third centre back most of the time, and it was the full back tucking in, and it just it becomes so easy to pinpoint the thing that basically it's like, we don't like this because it's not 4-4-2 and hit the fucking wingers, isn't it? But they're on the same points as Chelsea. They're on a point behind Liverpool, or 3 points behind Liverpool, and supposedly they're shite. And
they're fine. I think at the start of the year I had them finishing 5th or 6th, and I'd 100% be comfortable sticking with that right now.
I'd be the same. I think anything top 8 for them this season is a good season. Get back into European football and progress from there.
Yeah. Again, like going forward, we're like really good. What have we now? We're the third, scored most third goals this season so far. It's just, again, at the defence, like we're just kind of a bit all over the place and we need more.
But what happens if Mbeumo gets his ankle snapped at AFCON?
I don't think at the moment it actually affects them.
But I mean, what happens if fucking Haaland snaps his fucking ankle? Like, you can say that about any team. Like, that's 19 goals gone for City, Sure. So, I mean, we can all speculate.
What the point I'm trying to make about United is that there's no depth there beyond the quality. There's absolutely no depth. They have a substitute and a half who can come on and affect a Premier League game.
The bench the other night was absolutely. You were looking at it's Xerxes and
and gone are the days of United's academy being what it was when we were growing up in the 90s. This is not you can bring on 6 of the kids at any point during the season. This is not the same club.
No, I will say the Fletchers came on and did a good account for themselves.
But look, in saying that, Amorim has had one full transfer window at the club, and look at the transformation that he's after making. So he will be there next summer. He'll be there to start the next season. Okay, it's a fact. He will be there. So I don't know if he can get one or two players in maybe in January, and then see what happens in.
Because Dean, you weren't sold in the summer, were you? You were talking about potentially moving him on and going, this ain't going to work. So
even at the start of the season, I was saying it's like he's trying to get himself set. Like it just. Yeah, I was supporting him for as long as I could, and the forms didn't turn around. But now I got egg in my face, and like I said, we're now again. It is also again very the whole no one's consistent this league, so it's kind of I'd be interested to know how many points we had this season compared to last season, and how many.
It's like 8 points more, 10 more. It's like 8 points more, 7 more goals. 6 that's conceded. All metrics are up.
The league is incredibly strong. There is one win between 10th and 5th right now. And kind of tying into what I was saying with Leeds earlier, there are 14 or 15 teams, and if you see them playing against your team at the weekend, you're nervous,
Yeah. But thank God we have Wolves now next week, because again, like I said, we weren't I don't think we deserved 3 points against Newcastle, even though we started the game off well. And we hung in there, somehow managing to put away a clean sheet. But thank God we just have Wolves, and we can just get another 3 points and gain a bit more confidence.
And a
I
bit of
don't know.
momentum there.
Yeah. I'm not sure who we have after that, but it's
But anywho, speaking of 10th and there being 3 points, like basically between 10th and Champions League spots and stuff like that, guess who the team in 10th are? And speaking of egg on the face, I also look like a dickhead because I said when Chukwueze, Bassi, and Iwobi went that Fulham would be in the shitter. And we'd start looking over our shoulder at relegation. They haven't lost since. 3 wins on the bounce.
3 wins on the bounce, yeah.
They're the only team in the. They're the only team in the top 10 who have lost twice at home. I think.
Wow.
Not that that's too big of a deal, but it just goes to show the strength of the league. Really, a lot of teams are getting super strong at home now.
Fulham are brilliant at home. They're one of the strongest teams
Fulham
at
are
home. And
good at
when you
home,
look at the
yeah.
home form, if you were to just take home form, they shoot up like 8 places or 7 places or something like that. They basically go into like third, fourth if you just look at home form, which is bananas. But like the thing there is, like I don't know if have you seen the piece of the piece of commentary of the 3 boys on the bus talking about Calvin Bassey's run. You've seen that video, haven't you?
Don't think so.
No.
Oh my god, it's lads, it's fantastic. It's the 3 boys are gas, by the way. Chukwueze, Iwobi. I think Chukwueze only signed because he's friends with the 2 boys and just wanted to spend a year or 2 with his mates. Because the 3 of them sitting on the bus, it's like Bassi turns to Iwobi and go, "I'm going to send you the clip after." Bassi turns to Iwobi after that run that he did, where basically cleaned the whole pitch and then worst shot you'll ever see in the Premier League history ever. It was like, yep. Get the ball, Ankara Messi, he's gone. Oh, the man slides across, he's still sliding. Look, the big man, he chops it back. And what happens? Me, my brother, I'm at the back post. Just pass to me, celebrate with me. I'm your friend, your brother, not your enemy. It's like a Jet 2 holiday, the ball gets to AFCON before we did. What the fuck happened here? 3 boys need their own show. Like, I think I think it's one of those things, the thing that is really standing out for Fulham is the dressing room. It's the strength. They seem like they're a really tight knit band. Marco Silva's kind of put together a team of lads who are up for it.
Well, Marco Silva's always linked whenever big jobs go up. His name always kind of pops up, so he is a good manager.
Good manager.
You're lucky to have him.
He has a history of taking the broken boys, like what he's done with Adama Traore. Now, Adama Traore will be at West Ham in 2 weeks' time because it's time for Nuno to buy him again. It's like the Harry Redknapp, Nico Crancher, Peter Crouch axis. That's Adama Traore and Nuno all over. Everywhere Nuno goes, he signs. It's just fact. Yeah. So he'll be at West Ham in 2 weeks' time, and away you go, you giant lump. He's one of those fellas that you've been waiting for years for it all to come together, and it never has, and I don't think it ever will now. But what Fulham really have going for them is that kind of togetherness, because the squad isn't very deep right now, especially with those 3 boys going. Like, Robinson came back from injury. So the back 4 has been, like, I can rattle off the team starting to finish basically week on week at the moment because it's such a small group. It's like, it's Leno, it's Tete, it's Quensa, Anderson, Robinson, Berg, Lukic, Emil Smith Rowe, Kevin, Harry Wilson, and Jimenez. And that leaves Tom Carney to come in. It leaves Castagna to come in. It leaves Sessegnon to come in. That's essential because Muniz is injured and the rest are kind of lads in around the fringes. So it's one of those ones that we need a midfielder fucking badly. Needed a midfielder in the summer. The owners just did what they did every year. They promised that they'd get the business done early and did 4 signings on deadline day. Didn't get the midfielder over the line. They need a centre forward. I think Muniz was really gone in the summer. I think he will go next summer. Jimenez
he just doesn't score enough.
As streaky as Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Welbeck. He's another one of those.
Yeah.
He scored 2 and 2 now. He's scored in the last 2 games.
But before that, he had 0 and 15.
Exactly.
So
now that he scored the last 2, I expect him to score in the next 3 and then do fuck all for 10 minutes. So that's what I mean. He's in that another. I think Fulham need a striker and a midfielder, and I think a top half finishes on. I think it's top half finish, which is big.
It's funny to think back to the end of the last transfer window when Leeds thought they were getting Harry Wilson, only for Marco. I think it was Marco Silva blew it up kind of at the 11th hour. Now, not the 11th hour as in Wilson had agreed or anything, but Leeds were pretty sure they were going to have a bid accepted, and they were pretty sure they were going to be able to convince him to come. And Silva, I believe, kind of nipped that in the bud, which obviously no one needs to be told how good form Wilson's been on for the last.
Do you know what happened there, though? It was actually because Raheem Sterling Raheem Sterling and Zinchenko. They were the two that they were trying to get over the line on deadline day, and they basically were running out of time. And after selling Andres Pereira earlier in the window, they were like, we cannot leave ourselves another body short without having. So if they got one of those deals over the line, they would have let him go. And I said in the summer with Kevin Chukwueze and the other lads on the wings that like Emil Smith Rowe can play out there, Iwobi plays out there, Sessegnon can play out there when the one place they're stocked on is wingers, and I thought Harry Wilson's time at Fulham is done. He doesn't
we'll still take it. We'll still take him in January if you're willing to.
Nah, you're not taking him now. I think that's one of those ones that I think it's almost this weird thing of he knew his time was nearly at an end there.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those ones that once you know, it's like, oh, they've bought all these guys to push me out the door. Okay.
What do you make of Kevin?
He's fun. I think you'll see the best of him next year.
He's raw enough still.
He's very raw.
He's still very raw. Because he was a bit of a, I don't know, I guess it's still going on, but I was about to say a bit of a throwback to 10 or 15 years ago. He was nabbed out of Brazil after 10 or 11 games at senior level to go to Shakhtar.
Yep.
Which is, I guess, the breeding ground for single English named Brazilians that end up in the Premier League, you know. But he's exciting to watch. I think he's still getting thrown around a little bit, and he's got obviously a lot of learning to do, but the potential is definitely there from what I've seen.
He's very Yoga Benito in that kind of, when he gets the ball, his first instinct isn't pass, it's can it let me go do something? But yeah, very fucking raw. The goals that Harry Wilson has scored this season, if he was wearing a different jersey, and I've said this before, and it's probably very similar, and Dermot, you'll probably get this as well, that if he was wearing a Chelsea jersey and his name was Cole Palmer, it'd be like, oh, Ballon d'Or. Yeah. That goal he scored with the outside of the foot flick to the far post. Wow. That one 2 weeks ago with the ball flicked up and just top binned it. Wow. I'd say 3 or 4 of his goals so far will be in the highlight reels come the end of the season because of just how. And then the assist he had 2 weeks ago to Bassi, where he just plucked the ball out of the sky and flicked it back post.
Really nice.
Like, he's playing the form of his career right now. Anthony Robinson's back. Him coming back has coincided with 3 wins on the trot.
It's interesting.
Despite Bassi, Iwobi, and Chukwueze all being gone.
It's interesting to kind of witness that intersection of two kind of contrasting things that are happening right now in the Premier League, which is the technical quality of players has never been higher. They are getting better and better and better, corresponding with the overall quality of the product as from a fan's point of view. It's kind of hard to argue against it being down this year. We're getting a lot of long throws. We're getting a lot of set piece goals. Now, as far as I'm concerned, whatever, like, they're all part of the game. It's all a fair game. It's all, you know, you have to do what you have to do to win. But it's really interesting to see, like, some of these guys, the technical quality that these seemingly lesser players on lesser teams have. It really just goes to show you the strength of the league at the moment in terms of the players that are being attracted to the league, or kind of tying into what we were saying with United earlier. And Smith Rowe is kind of a good example of this. Players who were done at top clubs, players who were done at the clubs they had worked their way up through, you realize, hang on, the worst player on Arsenal's 23-man squad is still probably good enough to play for 9 or 10 teams in the Premier League, you know, and affect winning football at those teams.
But Smith Rowe spent most of the season on the bench behind Josh King, and again, this has coincided with the AFCON boys being away, that they probably needed to have. I think this is one of these, the chemistry of players, if you get me. That Iwobi allowed the domination and strength of Iwobi allowed a smaller guy like Josh King more pockets to play in. But without that powerhouse player, you needed someone who's probably that bit more jinky to get in around. And it's been fascinating to watch those tweaks. But like, yeah, 3 wins on the bounce. Crystal Palace,
who are in free fall. That's 3 more points.
With our form is completely opposite.
They're doing nothing for them at all.
Our form is completely opposite. They have 2 wins and 3 losses. We have 2 losses and 3 wins. We can put a 4th win together. You're looking at 29 points, which is Man United, Chelsea territory. Like,
it's another interesting conversation to have. I think the impact European football has on a club that isn't used to European football is also more stark than it's ever been. Palace are
Well, I feel Palace are probably the outlier in the
serious
sense of the shitty
trouble
summer they
this year.
had because of Nottingham Forest.
Well, they got very unlucky in the sense that that whole saga with Gay dragged on until the very end of the window. They weren't able to get the signings in that they needed. They obviously lost Eze, which is, we don't need to talk about how important he is. And most importantly, like we were saying earlier again with the wingbacks, they didn't get any strength in depth. Like, you cannot ask these lads to play the quality of football and the intensity of football in the Premier League on a Sunday and then roll over and head off on an airplane on Thursday to play a game and come back then straight into... Palace played 2 games in the space of 48 hours.
Before the transfer window ended, whether they were going to be Europa or Europa Conference.
No, sure, of course, yeah.
They couldn't get their house in order and they didn't know what finances they'd be working with. So they could have offered the Europa League and put in the Conference League. And then we'd be talking at this point going, they've broken PSR and they could be looking at a points deduction. So they couldn't actually, cut their cloth accordingly until like a week left in the transfer window, which just seems really crappy to me. And I think now we're seeing the fallout from that, in the sense that the first 10, 12 games of the season, Palace were the team to watch.
They're very good to watch. I'm a big fan of Glasner as well. But it raises another interesting question about the likes of Glasner, Iraola, kind of what we're seeing with Thomas Frank at Tottenham now, which is you can be a fantastic manager. You can take a team that's expected to do very little and really push them to their limit, like Palace getting into Europe, winning the FA Cup, winning the Community Shield. But when you take a Thomas Frank and you put them in a team like Spurs, where all of a sudden that's not good enough, the expectation begins here. You have to hit this floor and you're all of a sudden your ceiling's getting raised and raised and raised. It's an interesting question to see. Just, I guess the point it reinforces in my head is just how good the elite managers are at the top to be able to succeed when the expectations are so high. And now obviously the resources are different between the top clubs.
It's time. Because Thomas Frank, essentially the first year there was nearly a write-off for him to put his structure in place. It's same with Glasner. That first 6 months after he came in, it was almost, let's see what happens. Like, Thomas Frank, we're talking fucking 14 games into a season, 18 games into a season. It's like, oh, this isn't working. It's
nonsense. Yeah. But the thing is, you're not going to get the time to figure it out at one of those clubs where the expectation is qualify for the Champions League and challenge for a trophy. Frank, if we're still sitting here talking about Frank struggling in 12 months' time, we're going to be talking about him in the past tense as he pertains to Tottenham.
But as we were just talking about Marco Silva, I was actually thinking exactly that. If Thomas Frank doesn't get his house in order and ends up gone, could Fulham be in trouble and possibly see Marco Silva be going to Spurs?
Himself, Glasner and Areola. It's himself, Glasner and Areola who'll be the 3 in the window for that. Look, what we want to do is let's quick fire the next match week's fixtures. I want you to tell me who do you think and pick out one asset from the matchup that you reckon that people should be looking at, right? Because obviously, Dean, I have you in the StatrCast League this week, so fuck you. But yeah, let's quick fire the matchups. Tell me who you think is going to win and what asset you should look at. So first game tomorrow night, Burnley Newcastle.
Burnley definitely, and Woltemade. I think he scored 2 in his game before United. United managed to hold him off somehow, but yeah, I think Woltemade, and also, like I said earlier on, Lewis Hall. I could definitely see Lewis Hall getting a goal against Burnley.
So Newcastle winning away from home, and Woltemade or Lewis Hall.
Yeah.
Dermot?
So same game.
Same game. Burnley have been a little bit unlucky recently. They've put in some decent defensive performances that have amounted to 0-0 draws or 1-0 losses. I'd probably have Newcastle winning the game comfortably, but the scoreline not being so comfortable. And anytime we're talking about Newcastle winning a game not by 3 or 4 goals, I think it's going to come down to Bruno in the middle of midfield. Fair. I think Newcastle travelled so badly. I think Burnley are actually going to pick up one of their few wins of the season. I'm going to say Jadon Anthony is the asset. I'm going to pocket out for that. I know it's a wild one, but Newcastle have travelled so badly.
We'll be clipping that one.
Mm-hmm. We'll come back to that one. Chelsea Bournemouth.
Chelsea, I can see them. I know that they can put in good performances and not so good, but I think it could be just with all the drama going on with Semenya at the moment, the team will be a bit rattled. I could see it being a 3-0 Chelsea, and I think Neto, yeah, he'll net one. Who scores the other two? I don't know. Estebao maybe.
Yeah, so Chelsea for the win. I feel a bit bad for Chelsea fans at the moment. They've put in some good performance. They've been unlucky not to get the results. I would be similar to Dean. If I'm thinking a long-term asset at Chelsea, it's Neto. I just think he's so consistent when he's on the pitch. But short-term, João Pedro's back amongst the goals. I'd be taking him
2
tomorrow
and 2.
night.
I was going to say the same. Chelsea a free running win, and João Pedro being the asset. It was right when I dropped him. He's decided to score in every game since. Everton, Forest at home to Everton.
I'd say it'd be a draw, maybe a 1-1 draw. Bit of a boring game. I couldn't tell who was going to score on either team, though. Maybe Grealish, but we say Grealish in a lot of games, and he hasn't scored in. I don't know. He might have, but I haven't been keeping track of him. But I think 1-1 draw is what I'm calling.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised with the draw. I wouldn't be surprised with anything from a 0-0 to a 1-0 to either team to a 2-0 to a 2-1 to either team. Everton, for me, it's been the same asset for the whole season. His name's Jordan Pickford. And Nottingham Forest, Igor Jesus has been really up in his game recently, getting in amongst the chances, setting players up. I think he's finally going to get his goal. They've been hard to come by, but I think tomorrow night might be the night for him.
I'm going to say draw there, and the assets I'd be looking at will be Elliot Anderson for potential defensive contributions and James Tarkowski because he's again one of the strongest assets in terms of any version of fantasy football that you're playing, because he's just so vital and gets through so much action. So I'm going to say draw and lean on Tarkowski, probably for the same reason you're picking Pickford. West Ham at home to Brighton, a mud off game.
I think another draw. Bowen is in decent form. I think you could see him netting a goal past him. I really don't know who will score for Brighton. Welbeck hasn't been starting much. Might come off the bench and score a goal. Diego Gomez scored the other night. He could maybe keep up with the form, but I can see Bowen putting one past him anyway. That's my assessment.
Yeah, West Ham, Brighton, I don't know. Brighton have confused me a bit this year. A game like this, I'd be inclined to just lean draw or maybe some sort of surprise for the home team. I like Fernandes in the middle of midfield for West Ham, and I would love Paquetá if he could just keep the feckin' yellow cards to himself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaning on Jean-Paul Van Hecke being the asset from Brighton. If I think West Ham at home are piss poor, he's been an asset from set pieces as well this season. So I'd be leaning. I'm leaning a dirty 1-0 to Brighton, very similar to what Fulham did to West Ham the other day. A dirty 1-0 win with John Van Hecke being the asset to pick. Next, Arsenal Villa. That's the game of the weekend.
Game of the week, definitely. Villa in absolute flying form. I think Arsenal probably see them as one of the biggest threats in the league at the moment. Urian Timber is also Timber's also resting a knock at the moment. He might not start. Who else? There's someone else who had a hamstring. Arsenal defender the other week.
Calafiori
hurt his hamstring, so I think Villa will do him again. I think just at the moment Arsenal are weak at the back, just dealing with a couple of injuries, and just Villa's flying form. Morgan Rodgers to get one at least. Maybe Watkins if he keeps the form up.
What I don't like about Villa in this game is they're missing Kamara and Cash. They're both suspended for gathering yellow cards. So I'd be thinking 0-0. I'd be taking Emi Martinez on the Villa side, or a 1-0 to Arsenal. Maybe it's a Rice set piece and someone heads it in, or Gyökeres gets a goal, not too sure. But I don't expect it to be a free-flowing 3-2 or anything. I'd go 0-0 or 1-0 to Arsenal.
I'm going to go for an Arsenal win here. I think because the way Villa beat them literally 3 weeks ago, I think that's still going to be fresh in the Arsenal minds, that late winner for Villa. I think Arsenal aren't going to let that happen again, so I'd be leaning Bukayo Saka. His form has started to kind of upturn in the last 2 to 3 weeks, so I think Starboy in one of those veins of form where he's doing bits, he'll get an assist or a goal. And I think, without Matty Cash at the moment, he's so vital to Villa. I'm leaning Arsenal's retribution against Villa for the win, for the result of 2 weeks ago. United Wolves, do we just say Cunha and Man United win and move on from that, or what?
No, Lamens to the rescue for a 1-0 win, I'd say.
No, I think it's a good opportunity now for Sesko to make his stamp. try to get a fucking couple of goals past a team, any team. I think he'll score one, and yeah, hopefully Cunha as well will be able to score. But yeah, it could be again 2-3-0. 3-0 United. I'm going to go.
I'm genuinely sticking with United Lemons to help United get a deserved but very unconvincing win.
Is there Premier League then on the 30th? Let's see.
No,
there's Premier League on the 1st. We got 4 more games on the 1st.
Yes, we do. We have Fulham. Palace, Fulham. I'm going for Fulham. I'm going for Harry Wilson.
I agree. I go Fulham as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kevin though. I think it's his goal. Okay. It's time for his goal.
It's happening. Liverpool leads.
I think draw
at Anfield, right?
It's at Anfield, though.
That's true.
Nah. I think Ekitike is if Wirtz is opening up. Ekitike is on fire. I'm not even cautiously optimistic. No, I'm going Liverpool with one of those two boys putting us to sleep.
I'm going Liverpool and Ekitike.
Yeah, I think Liverpool 2-1 Ekitike, but I think.
But Calvert-Lewin continues his run with an 8th goal.
I would also agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Brentford Spurs, the Thomas Frankoff.
Yeah.
Brentford at home though, Spurs away.
Yeah. Do you know what? Thiago isn't fucking scoring anymore. He's got to be. He's got to start scoring again. But as well, Spurs just are so inconsistent. God, can they both
lose? Kelleher.
Which?
Give me Queevy and Kelleher.
You're going to go with Kelleher in home. I'm going to go the complete opposite to you. Spurs have actually been decent away from home, and Richarlison tends to score all his goals away from home. So while it pains me to say it, I'm going Spurs and Richarlison as my pick asset from that game.
I think it'll be a draw. And Richarlison, he had a disallowed goal because of he was offside the other night. His knee was offside barely, but he has been in decent form this season. I can see him getting the goal, 1-1 or 2-1 maybe.
Cool. Last game up, Sunderland City. At the Stadium of Light.
City.
Oh, City. That's a tough one. Yeah, I think City breaks Sunderland's good run of unbeaten home form. I think Reinders is starting to behave like the Reinders we were watching in AC Milan for the last couple of years. And also, sneaky one, Bernardo Silva is just such a joy to watch at this point in his career. He is so smooth. He doesn't put a pass out of place. Not necessarily to score a goal, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him pop up with an assist.
This is the longest run that Pep has ever had in 17 years of picking the same team.
The same team,
yeah. I think
17 years. So Ryan Cherky for me.
Cherky. I was going to say Cherky as well. Yeah, I'm flying for him.
He's such a joy to watch, Cherky.
He's such a joy.
Also, by the way, is there a more terrifying team than France heading into this World Cup? With all the boys they have moving forward, Mbappe, Dembele, Cherky, Barcola, everyone, they are petrifying.
England, France, Spain.
No.
England, France, Portugal.
France, Spain, England, Argentina, and if Ronaldo doesn't play, Portugal as well.
Yeah. Right. On that note, look, anybody who has been watching us and has been following us for the last while should know that the app is coming very, 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 very soon. I mean, we're not talking weeks anymore. We're not talking months anymore. We're talking days. So if you haven't head over to StatrDraft.com, STATRDRAFT.com, head on over, have a look at some of the blogs, have some of the bits and pieces. Dean, Dermot, Happy Christmas, Merry New Year. I don't know whatever holiday you're doing. Do your thing, and we'll talk to you in 2026. Peace out, my friends.
Nice one, guys.